Welcome to Buckets. My name's Matt Moore. I'm joined by Joe Dellera and Jim Turvey. This is the Future Jays coming to you live from the Tommy John's home studios. Glad to have you with us. This is your Best Bets episode for Monday, November 4th in the association. We're going to cover all sorts of games. There's a million games on Monday because there's no games on Tuesday for various reasons. And so we're going to have lots to talk about, lots of bets for you for the Monday slate. We're also going to get into our future stuff because this is the Future Jays after all. We'll break it all down. We'll talk about it. You can find all sorts of great stuff on this in the award-winning Action Network app. Best way for you to track your picks. You can sign up for the pro subscription, get Sean Kerner, Chris Raybon, Brandon Anderson, Nick Giffen, all the smart dudes. You get their picks first if you sign up for pro in the Action Network app. Make sure to go to youtube.com/the Action Network and get yourself subscribed so you can catch all of our great live shows, as well as this great podcast and many, many, many more on over there at youtube.com/the Action Network. Joe Dellera, you can find on Twitter at Joe Dellera, as well as in the Action Network app. You can find him on the Cash That podcast as well. Go subscribe to Joe's podcast. It's really good. It's a really good podcast. Go check it out. The Cash That podcast. Also, can I say the new thing, Jim? Can I say it?
You can say it, yeah.
Joining us from Roto Grinders, Jim Turvey. New Roto Grinder. You're a Roto Grinder. That's what I'm going to refer to you.
I am a Roto Grinder, yes. Stephen Keach, one of our favorite SPK, if you follow in the app, a legend. I am taking over his position, doing NBA projections analyst for Roto Grinders. So I'm very excited to be doing that. I'll be doing some content stuff over there as well. So I'm excited to be part of the big family. So
congrats to Jim. You can follow him on Twitter and in the Action Network app at Turvey Bets. All right, let's start here. You guys want to talk about most improved player? I was like, talk about MVP or the title race or any of these things. And of course, these two sickos are like most improved player. So I pulled some numbers, and there's been some fascinating movement in the market. The new consensus favorite is Jalen Green of the Houston Rockets. He is now as low as there is an 800 at Bet Rivers and Bet MGM. There is as high as 1,000, 10-1 at DraftKings. Jalen's the new one, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Jalen fits all the categories. Team that looks like it might be good. Big jump year over year in points, which is obviously like a huge one. If he keeps this up, then he's in line for an all-star nod, which is always like, we talk about that constantly, as the all-star thing is the canary in the mine for most improved. So it makes a lot of sense that he's moved as much as he has. He's actually moved up by $1,955 in value. That's $19.55 in return. So that's not bad for a jump for him. The second biggest jump and the second biggest guy on the board is LaMelo Ball, who finally looks healthy. Hornets are competitive. They're not winning, but they are competitive. He's down as low as 850. There are still 10-1s in the market on LaMelo. He's moved a ton because he was way deep to start on the opening night. There was 60-1s on LaMelo on opening night. So he's down $35.37. And that's an even bigger move, obviously, than Jalen. Cade's third. We'll talk about the guys after him. I will start here. Joe Dellera. Are any of these guys like the shooting star that we need to try and catch? Is this Haley's Comet that we need to try and hitch a ride on?
I'm not 100% convinced that I want like really any of them. LaMelo is the guy that I think I don't want. LaMelo's awesome, but like he already has hit a lot of the criteria that we've looked for. Like he's already been an all-star. We already know that he's electric. I mean, he's just on crazy volume, and the Hornets are bad. Like they're just like, maybe like I know like some of us we've bet them to win like the division, but it's really more of a math thing. It's more of a numbers thing. And he probably have to win the division in order for him to win this award, I think. And I think that's why you had like a 60-1 on him. Jalen Green kind of makes some sense. The interesting thing might be it's like I don't know, like does Houston want him? Like I know they just signed him, right? But like what it's a little bit weird, like the way they signed him, like the contract they even signed him to. So I'm curious to kind of see about that. But I still think it's relatively early in the season. So I try to not like chase the steam. And I think that like with these guys rising, there might be an opportunity for some other players that maybe you're putting together like slightly more like well-rounded or weren't as established like LaMelo was, because LaMelo's really like, if there was a comeback player of the year, like this would be kind of the award for him, I think. But like most improved is just, it's weird because it's like he was just hurt. Like he was awesome before he was an all-star. So what are we looking at unless he's going to jump to all NBA, like MVP? And I know like the points are there. He's in the 30s right now. He's at like 31, but I feel like he's I think he's like too good for this award.
The Rockets one I think is interesting on Jalen, just based off of the fact of he's teased so often. He's just always kind of like a big tease in March Jalen, and it looks like he's sustaining it. The on-off stuff isn't as good with him, and I'm not expecting it to be. I'm not expecting impact here. Like he just needs to put up points, and he is. But I am just kind of like a little bit concerned that he's going to wind up coming back down to earth this season, and that could be a really tough spot for him. Jim, do you have thoughts on these top three guys?
Yeah, I'm not really buying any of these top three. I think Joe said it well with LaMelo he's a little bit more established. I think he is genuinely improved, but he just doesn't fit what we have seen for this award in the past. I also think the biggest thing is I just don't think the Hornets are going to be, a playoff team. I think you really do need that. He might be in the All-Star game because he's very fun to watch. He might, be someone who gets to that level, but he already has one of these previously, an All-Star appearance. I don't think the shooting is going to last forever, and he's a huge, huge injury risk. I mean, part of the reason Joe said he'd be a comeback guy is because we have seen very little of him over the past 2 seasons. Jalen Green, if you look at the numbers, he is shooting more, but the rebounds, the assists, the steals, the blocks, none of that has improved. His BPM is a little bit better. This is, to me, a very small sample of him just shooting better from three. I don't think it's going to sustain per se. I think if he drops back from like the 24 points he's at right now to something more like 22, suddenly the case is a lot more meh. I think there's a couple other names. I'll give a best bet later on one who I do like, who we haven't talked about before. But I actually think that a really good comparison point for, overall improvement that's either, being overly highlighted by shooting like Jalen Green, or someone who has actually genuinely improved their rebounds, their assists, their steals, their blocks, are taking more shots, but they're having a little bit of bad shooting luck. And so they're actually, it's a great buy low point. Our guy from before the season, Jalen Williams, he's actually looked a lot better. He's had bad shooting luck instead of Jalen Green, who's had some good shooting luck. If Jalen Williams starts hitting some of these shots, he's taking way more. His rebounding is way up. His assists are up. His defensive stats are up. The Thunder are looking like they might never lose another game in the history of the franchise. I think that Jalen Williams, he's down to plus 25 to 1 again. That was a number we loved preseason at a shorter number. I think that this is, you can buy after 2 weeks and almost double the price that we were seeing right before the season, just because he's had a little bit of bad shooting luck that I would not say is going to, I don't see that sticking around. Whereas the other improvements to the game, I think, are a lot stickier. I think the rest of his box score stats are there, and I think the Thunder are very, very legit. So if, in terms of people we've talked about before, Jalen Williams is the guy that I want to buy back on just a couple weeks into the season.
Yeah. I mean, his average jump is a $1.07. That's his average kind of jump across all the books that we're tracking. And that's like, you're seeing he's one of the few guys that probably there's value on where the numbers gotten better, as Jim mentioned, which I do kind of agree there. I put him a bet over the summer on RJ Barrett, and I think Brandon was with me on it. And it's like, RJ Barrett's gonna be the guy where it's like, look at how much he's improved, and everyone's like, yeah, but the Raptors are fucking horrible.
Yep.
So no.
Yeah.
He has.
I will say, I'm gonna think about Cade, and it's stupid because it's like, you're gonna give most improved player to a number 1 overall pick, and the problem is, like, we've given it to number 2s. Like, John Morant's won it.
But do you think the Pistons are going to get? I mean, we love Pistons. We love Pistons Islands. Yeah. They just picked up their first win. I feel like that's almost as similar to RJ case of team sucking.
Second win after today. Thank you.
Oh, that's true.
I was on the Nets, or I was on the Pistons, which you could find in the Action Network app, on the Pistons money line. So mostly because that was one of those where, like, I bet it because it's like, sweet Jesus, they need, if I'm going to get over 24 and a half, they got to beat the Nets.
They got to
Their
get this
schedule
one.
has been, they have the number one.
It's been really
They
tough.
have
Yeah.
They have the
It's
number
been
one
tough,
SOS by dunks and threes. So, but here's a key here. I am less interested in playoff as I am All-Star. I think that's more important than playoff. Now, like if the Pistons are tanking at the end of the year, then Cade's not gonna win, and that's why Cade's probably like a wait and see. Like you need to get the Pistons to where it's January, or December, just mid-December, and it's like, hey, Pistons are only 3 games under 500. Like then it's like a really great spot, and then the number might be worse. But what I can't risk is like it's December, and it's like, yeah, no, Cade's playing great. The Pistons are 10 games under 500, and after the new year, they're going to shut everybody down.
Yeah.
I think that's
And
a
that's
good point you're making too, though, because it's like I don't need like realistically a market that we've already bet into. Like we already bet like J-Dub, we've already bet like RG Barrett. Like there's other players we've already bet, right? Like I don't need to add a plus 1200 portfolio piece right now when I have major question marks about like the status of the team. So like I think when you're saying like let's wait, I think that makes a lot of sense because like if Detroit's just awful and like by Christmas time, it's like, all right, well, this is like, see ya. Like, we're probably not even going to see you in the All-Star game, no matter how good you are. So I think that that's a great point. And like Jim's analysis of Jalen Williams was like took the words right out of my mouth because to me it was like, hey, like you missed the good number. Well, guess what? 2 weeks later, you get to go bet it again because that like I think that's the biggest thing. It's like we're 2 weeks into the season. There are major overreactions in the market.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks in where like this is a spot that we really liked, and it's hard sometimes to get down early like preseason on some of these awards, whereas like as the season progresses, it's like you kind of get like a little bit of a reset and you can start getting more down on some of these awards if you want to. So like I love the Jalen Williams angle, and when you look at his numbers, like the shooting's been not there, but he's actually taking 1.4 more threes per game, which is super significant in terms of his shot profile. So I think that the 23, 24 points a game is like not completely unreasonable. Come say like a month from now, I think those are like numbers that we could literally see from Jalen Williams just based on shooting changes.
Well, and part of like what you said there, Joe, is like we do see such big moves in these markets in the first 2 weeks, and sometimes it makes sense. Like the market moving off of Wemby as the favorite for defensive player of the year we talked about last week, that actually does make sense. That's something that I think there's like signal to. Sometimes there's people are just overreacting and then it's just noisy chaos. And that's why this MIP is kind of interesting because it's just noisy chaos. There's no one has like stood out as like an obvious choice. And it's really, we're going to look back and like be like, man, that was a strange first couple of weeks. No one popped. A month in, we were able to see the vision became clearer as to who's really popping. I did have one other name, Matt. Can I drop in it's not quite a best bet, but I would say it is worth a bet at this number.
Yes, I was gonna just real quickly hit on one guy, and that is Bilal Coulibaly is now third.
I love Bilal.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And Bilal's great, but this is the same kind of function as like it's like the worst side of the Cade thing, where it's like the Pistons might be okay, the Wizards are bad.
Yeah, real bad.
So like I don't think Bilal's ever gonna get enough recognition. Go ahead with your best bet, Jim.
So we've talked about all the Jalens. I've got another Jalen. It's a Jalen that we love. You know where I'm going, Matt?
No.
Suggs. Jalen Suggs, 20. I wish the number was a little bit longer. That's the only thing from keeping this being a best bet. It's 25-1. I think the market has sniffed out what I have sniffed out a little bit is that we now have this chance with Paolo out for the next, extended period of time. Suggs and Joe, you were all over this with the player prop side of things. Suggs's usage and points go way up with Paolo off the court. Now, the biggest thing is going to be, can this Magic team kind of float around 500 with Paolo out? And I think that they very much will be able to. I think it's going to be gross for a little bit. I think both of us are going to be touching on that later in the episode. But even before Paolo went out, Suggs had seen his numbers go up from around 12-3-3 to 17-5-4. He had a monster first game without Paolo. He scored 28 points. He was taking 3 more threes a game even before Paolo went out. So if he can get to that near all-star level, I think that's the toughest part of his case is like, is he really going to be an all-star guard in the Eastern Conference? I think it can be close. He's getting shout outs on big podcasts. I know the Bill Simmons is always shouting him out there. He wants him to be on the Olympic team. It's going to be a borderline case, but I think that if we're seeing an MIP field where there isn't a mega standout right now, and I think that's where we are 2 weeks in, then it opens the door for someone like Jalen Suggs, who isn't quite at that all-star level, but has the team, he could go from averaging 12.5 points to averaging 20 points. That kind of a jump is pretty hard to ignore, especially when he brings the skill and energy and tenacity on the defensive side of things too, that everyone knows he's an all-around player. He's literally the 11th best player by BPM in the NBA right now. Tiny sample, of course, but he's going to have a really good case to be, an outstanding player who is finally going to have some of the counting stats that you need for awards like this. I wish the number was a little bit longer, but I think at least getting a small position on Jalen Suggs is something I'm going to do, and then see how things play out with the Jalen Williams that we have, or if there's any other names that start to emerge as we watch how the season plays out.
Jalen Suggs went from 12.7. He's currently averaging 18.7. So he's having a 6-point jump. If he gets that to 20, and if the Magic can just they're going to get killed, and we'll talk about them a little bit more in best bets.
Yeah.
They're going to get killed versus all the good teams. But if they can just survive till Paolo gets back, this is a great buy low opportunity because of that kind of thing. What kind of number? Let's see. Where is Suggs in the market right now?
25-1 plus 2,500.
Yeah,
is the best I can find.
Yeah, you wish it was longer.
I wish it was a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Me too. Which is why I got it in preseason on our Buckets Best Bets episode for Most Improved Player at 50-1.
Heyo.
That was awesome.
You'll be sandwich time.
Suggs on that one.
All right, that was obnoxious. But anyway, that's why I'm not going to bet it, because I already have Suggs at 50-1.
Well, it's funny you said it, because I thought I was with you on it preseason, and I searched my little futures doc, and I was like, I didn't bet this? I'm an idiot. So very much I'm glad you rubbed that in my face, because I don't know why I didn't bet it.
So I think the other thing, though, I will say is if, because it's terrible content to be like, I got this really great number. Yeah. You could have listened to the show. But also, I will say, this is a unique opportunity because of what Jim was talking about, because of the Paolo injury. This specifically means that his scoring is going to go up, which is going to impact his season average. And it's a buy low spot because the Magic are going to get killed for 3 weeks. And then there's going to be this really good opportunity when Paolo comes back and they're good again, and Suggs' numbers are boosted by that. This is a unique opportunity. I think it's a really good spot.
It's the Maxey thing from last year, where he had 40 games with Embiid, 40 games without. So his numbers went way up when Embiid was off, but they floated enough wins when Embiid was there. Theoretically, it could be the very same formula to get him across the finish line.
Yeah.
Joe, do you have anything else? Is there anybody else on the list that you are kind of interested in?
The one guy. This is borderline slanderous, but the one name that was on the list that I was like, oh, I've noticed that he's been playing really well, but I didn't notice he's been playing this well. Is Zubac is averaging 17.5 points and 13 rebounds. He's literally leading the league in rebounds, which but that's the thing. You can bet that instead. You can bet him to lead the league in rebounds. And the number was still 25-1. So that's a better number than betting him most improved. So if you want to do that,
by the way, the best number in the market for most improved right now is 22-1 at FanDuel.
Yeah.
So you're about $3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think if you the number pop, I was like, wow, that is low. And then I remembered that I was like, his numbers have been crazy.
Yeah.
But you're better off just betting him to lead the league in rebounds. If you can do that, because those are the same market.
Because Kawhi's going to come back at some point and ruin everything, because that's what he does.
Yes, exactly. So, but the rebounds could still be there.
This is a cliche name, but I will mention it. There's still a 14-1 on Evan Mobley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I might have to get in at that price.
He's my favorite of the favorites.
Because the biggest thing with Mobley is if the Cavs are this, not undefeated, but this, I have them right now power rated number 1. I have them above Boston. I would have Cavs favored based off of in-season number without adjustment. I would have them favored on neutral court over the Boston fucking Celtics. That's how good they've been. I would not bet that, notably. but if they're this good, there's going to be like a lot of the Cavs can't just have one All-Star.
Yeah.
They
And
have
they need
to
an
have more than
award.
one.
They need an
And,
award
like-
besides Atkinson.
And like Jared Allen is like the guy that probably should get it, but for some reason Jared Allen is invisible to voters because he should also be he should be a serious contender for DPOY.
Yeah.
Like the work that Jared Allen is doing.
What you and I should have gone for is Halloween. We should have flown cross country, met each other, and gone as like the ghost of our Jared Allen Defensive Player of the Year bets past. And we'd actually need like a crew of 10 because we've bet it so many times at 250 to 1 and been like, listen, this is a good bet. It's never hitting, but it's a good bet.
And then like no one, like they just don't even know he exists. He kicked Anthony Davis's ass from one end of the floor to the other. It was an obliteration. I rewatched that game and was just like every 5 minutes I was like, God damn, Jared Allen. Whoa.
He's awesome.
He was amazing. Okay. Let's do some best bets for the Monday slate here on Buckets. Let's go around the slate and we will say what our best bets are. We'll start with Joe Dellera. What's your best bet for Monday?
I'm on Keegan Murray over 13.5 points. And I also like, not to be a homer, but it is what it is. The New York Knicks minus 3.5 at the Houston Rockets.
Okay. Jim Turvey, what are your best bets?
I have the Orlando Magic team total under 102.5. I have the Knicks Rockets game under 218.5. And I have Ayo Dosunmu over 11.5 points.
I am on the Oklahoma City Thunder minus 11.5 versus the aforementioned Orlando Magic. And I have the Lakers minus 6.5 tomorrow. I literally have to remember who they're playing. I don't have it in front of me.
The Pistons. Your beloved Pistons.
My beloved Pistons. But this is a terrible, terrible spot. Let's start with Jim. And Jim, let's start with Thunder since we both got a bet on it. Give me the cap on Orlando team total under 102.5.
Definitely. So this is a team that without Paolo, the offense has looked very, very ugly. They got to 109 on Friday, but that was due to a big second half where it's like kind of a blowout, and they crossed over in that threshold. They are 40 points at the half as we're recording against the Mavericks. Paolo drove their offense. They, like we talked about, they're going to be okay in the long run, but this short-term immediate, impact is going to be really ugly on the offensive side of things. Now they get what is hands down, like by far, like almost comically far. It is a small sample, but this Thunder defense is so good. The Magic will be on a back-to-back, and this Orlando team just doesn't have the pieces. Like if you think about who's going to score and who's going to be matched up against them, and like if there's any potential weakness on the Thunder defense, there just really isn't there. So getting this under 102.5, the game total looks like it's moving up. So usually that's tethered to the spread. So I don't think it's going to move a whole lot. But I would take this. I don't think they're scoring triple digits in this game against the Thunder as a whole. So if you can find out there a first half team total under, that might be the best, because I'm with you, Matt. I think that the Thunder are going to roll. So it could be a blowout, and that kind of gets messy. If you can hyper target as much as possible, I want to be fading the Magic team totals in those, first, second quarter, because I just can't see this team scoring against the Thunder on Monday.
My projection model for totals is still kind of catching up to in-season data, so I'm not really relying on it right now. But I will say that based on it, I currently have the Magic projected for 88.5 points. So don't hate this one. I'm gonna just go ahead and lay the points with the Thunder, in part because of. So here's a concern for you, Jim. Is garbage time.
Yes.
Right. If this is the Magic end of the bench versus especially the Thunder end of the bench, which will still somehow play the same way, then it's just going to be guys running up and down shooting threes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Orlando's got anybody who can do that, but it could get a little loosey-goosey at the end. Here's the trend that kind of got me there. I've got a small edge on the number here at about 12.4. It's enough to get me involved at 11.5, but the bigger thing is a trend here. Since the start of last season, among all teams facing an opponent on the second night of a back-to-back, the Thunder are the best in the league, 9-3 against the spread at 75%. And if we go just in home games for OKC, we wind up with 5-2 at 71%. They are just awesome versus these types of teams. It's a bad spot. The Magic are And here's the other thing: is the Magic are going to get roughed up by this Mavericks team tonight. Like that, the Mavericks are physical and bruising and just monsters inside, and they've had to play Luka, who's a pain in the ass to play and really physical too. You do that, then you get on a plane and fly to OKC. It's a short flight, but even then, 3rd and 4 back to back. This is a minus 11.5. I love OKC here. I'll probably play an alt here on OKC. I'll probably play a substantial alt at a small number. I don't want like 14.5. I don't think I want to do the escalator. I just want to get in at like 19.5 for a 20-point plus blowout win. Joe, let's go to you. Keegan Murray over 13.5 points. By the way, Keegan Murray said this today on Twitter. You can follow me at HP Basketball. Keegan Murray leads the league in on-off-court defensive impact. The Kings are 28 points better per 100 possessions in non-garbage time with Keegan Murray on the floor. He's pretty important. But tell me why you think that Keegan Murray is going to go over 13.5 points on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, he's been awesome to start the season anyway, right? He's hit this in 5 of 6 games. He's averaging 14.5 points per game. But looking back, he has cooked Miami. And I think a lot of it has to do with like the defensive scheme that Miami runs. And a lot of it just is like, he's not like a primary option for Sacramento. He's probably like number 3, maybe number 4, depending on like who they're playing. And that's just somebody that's going to slip through the cracks a little bit against this Miami team. The other thing is like, he's pretty big, and Miami overall is like a little bit undersized, honestly, like from like a size perspective, right? Against Miami, over the last 2 years, 22, he's got a 7-point game. Then he's got 33 and 28 in his 2 more recent games. So he's getting up plenty of shots, and he's getting up a lot of threes. The other thing is, even with DeMar DeRozan, I was a little bit surprised by this, but when I was looking at the pace for the Kings, I was like, oh, like they're going to play slow. Like they have DeMar DeRozan. No, they're playing at the 7th fastest pace in the league still. So I was shocked, honestly. Like at first I was like, oh, they're going to be slow. Not slow at all. So they're getting their shots up. Miami plays slow, but not really on the offensive side of the ball. It's really on the defensive side of the ball that they play a little bit, that they are able to like slow teams down. So when I have a team that I know wants to play fast, I kind of think it makes it harder for them to have like such a slow pace for Miami. So that was part of the cap. But then when you look at their defensive shooting, Miami allows the 4th most, or the 4th highest frequency of 3-point attempts. And Keegan Murray loves to shoot the 3 ball. So I think this is a good opportunity for him. He's made at least 2 threes in his games where he takes at least 6. So he's averaging 7.2. He's averaging, and you see a pretty significant uptick against Miami. I think it's a great spot for Keegan Murray. He is coming off a game where, you know, he's played pretty well. He scored 16 points against Toronto, and I think this is a good spot. They have a day off between the games, and I know it's a long flight. You got to go through customs, whatever. 13.5, I think, is just too low. He has just consistently been hitting this number, and even dating back to last year, his last 20 games, he's hitting this in 75% of games, averaging 17.1 points per game.
Okay, I'm in on this. Let me ask you though, from a process standpoint, what makes you go for 13.5 points when that back half of your cap was based off of the 3-point stuff, right? And if it's a high 3-point volume of defense, why not just grab the 2+ threes?
So it's the best I'm seeing is like minus 170. And honestly, like by the time this goes live, it's just going to get torched. So it's like, it's not going to be like bettable for people. Right. So that's part of it too. But also the minus 170, like if it does move to 2.5, I don't know if I want it, because sometimes he makes 2 all the time, but he does not make 3 all the time. So that's really kind of what the difference is. So for me, I'm like, well, I think he can contribute from a variety of different ways, whether it's layups, whether it's putbacks, because we've seen his rebounds actually spike this year. So he's getting a couple more putback opportunities than he used to get previously. So that's why I settled on the points as opposed to kind of locking myself in with the threes. I think if you wanted to take like a plus money spot, I think if you wanted to like ladder this, or so to speak, week, then you could take the 13.5 points and then maybe take 3 plus threes at like plus 150. Because I think, once you start getting to 20 points, it's highly unlikely that he's going to score 20 points without making the threes. So, and 20 does seem to be a lot given what his status is in like the Kings offensive scheme.
Okay. I'm gonna just go ahead and slide over here since don't have to wait till this podcast goes up and take this right now. I'm actually gonna I'll write this up for tomorrow so you'll have it in the action app. I'm gonna do Murray 2 plus threes and Kings money line on the same game.
I like the Kings money line.
That's probably nice.
It was a borderline best bet for today.
Yeah, that's probably nice.
I have this projected. I have it projected actually Kings -5. And that's probably
on the
heavy.
Road.
It's probably heavy. I'll probably downgrade Sacramento and maybe bring up Miami a little bit there on power rating, but I think it's at least worth. Even if I do that, I'm still going to come out with there's value on this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to. I will do Lakers -6.5 Pistons. This is not hard. Pistons are on the second night of a back-to-back. The Lakers smash bad teams. The Lakers are going to have a lot of trouble whenever they face good teams. You see that they get wiped out by the Cavs. They are going to destroy these teams that are bad. Like the Lakers are built to beat these bad teams. The defense is bad, but guess what? Detroit's offense is still pretty bad. I wish it was better. I think it can get better eventually. I have a lot of faith in my guys. They're my guys this season, but as of right now, I cannot, under any circumstances, believe that they are going to be able to hang in this game on a back-to-back versus Anthony Davis and LeBron James. I make this 8.9. So I have an 8.9 before the back-to-back, 3rd and 4 back-to-back for Detroit.
Yeah.
And the Lakers coming off a rest spot, I will absolutely hit the Lakers here to cover comfortably versus my Detroit Pistons. Let's go back to Jim and let's do Knicks. Yep, we both got to play on it, so let's get into Knicks Rockets. This one should be interesting. Jim, I'll let you go first on why you want the under 218.5.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, the game I really wanted an under on today was Clippers and Spurs. That has moved 10 points since open, which is absolutely insane to have a number. I mean, we're not like on the first day of the season. We're like 2 weeks in. I think that's really sharp, though. There was some good stuff about pace. There was some good stuff I thought maybe about Wemby really breaking up that Harden-Zubac pick and roll. Alas, I'm going with what was my second favorite under of the day, which is Rockets and Knicks. These are 2 of the 3 slowest teams in the NBA by pace this season. And the Knicks big thing this season is that they're getting torched on twos. They're allowing teams to shoot 60% on twos this season. It is the worst in the NBA. And while I think of that, a little bit of that has to do with Mr. Big Bodega there, the big cat who has come to town. 60% is not sustainable. The Rockets are a team that is one of the worst. They're the second worst team at 2-point field goal percentage in the NBA. They have, Jalen Green can pressure the basket, but not a lot of what they're doing really is coming from, super aggressive attacks of the rim that could put a guy like Cat under pressure. So I think that the Knicks side of this is going to come back to earth a little bit. Their defense is going to be as bad as it is. And then Houston's defense, they're 4-1 to the under this season. The defense isn't quite as good as we've seen last season, but I don't see any reason why that is either. So I think that the Houston defense is still very strong. The Knicks defense isn't as bad as it has been. And so when we throw that together with 2 of the 3 slowest teams in the NBA, I really like this under 218.5.
I don't have a really good feel for who the Rockets are right now. They beat the Mavericks and they look awesome, but then they just turn around. I can't. They are an inconsistent squad right now to the point where I am having a really hard time kind of figuring out what I think that they're going to be. Like I just don't know what they're going to be. I will say that based off of in-season numbers, I do project this to be an under. So I'm kind of with you on that, but it is. I have a really hard time figuring out this matchup and how things are kind of going to go. Joe, you like your boys -3.5 on the road. Why are you on go New York, go New York, go?
My thing when you kind of look at this is they obviously got they got crushed in the opener against the Celtics. Just is what it is. But to me, that was a game where you had the defending champs against a team that just didn't really know what to do. It seemed dysfunctional, honestly, watching them to a degree. Since then, you beat the Pacers, you beat the Heat, you beat the Pistons, you play the Cavs tight in a game where now like we're looking at this and we're like, oh, the Cavs are literally like arguably the best team in the NBA. So it's not super surprising, right? And as a result, the Knicks have the second hardest strength of schedule in the NBA. The Rockets do not. The Rockets have the the Rockets are at the bottom. The Rockets have the Rockets have the 17th. They're still right in the middle, but they're towards the bottom, right? In terms of strength of schedule, whereas the Knicks are closer to the top. But in adjusted net rating, the Knicks are 4th, second best offense, 10th best defense. Rockets are 11th, 15th in adjusted offense, 8th in adjusted defense. I just think this is a good matchup for New York. I don't think that they really have. I think that they have plenty of defensive options to slow down what Houston wants to do on offense, specifically Jalen Green. You have so many people you could throw at him. You have Josh Hart, you have Mikal Bridges, you have OG Anunoby, and like that's dynamic. That is going to totally shake up what Houston really kind of brings to the table right now. And for Şengün, I think Şengün is obviously really good, but historically, this has been a pretty good spot for Karl Anthony Towns in these head-to-head matchups against the Rockets. And over the past couple of seasons, he's averaging 26.5 points against the Houston Rockets. So it's obviously like there's a little bit of nuance there because of the different positioning, not playing alongside a Gobert, like etc. But I think that this is a very tough matchup for Şengün on the interior. Şengün's not really a great defensive player, and the Cat's ability to kind of stretch him out, I do wonder, like how does that impact what Houston wants to do on both sides of the ball? I know that Steven Adams got upgraded on the injury report, but I think that that's notable, but like we're not seeing Steven Adams play like more than 20 minutes a game. And then that's going to probably cut into Tari Eason, et cetera, like some of these other guys on the Rockets. So maybe a little bit of Jabari Smith as well. So I think this is a good spot for New York in terms of what they want to do offensively. And even though their defense isn't great, overall, like in terms of the total package, I do think that there are some signs of life, and specifically in this matchup against what Houston has been good at so far this season, they're pretty well equipped to try to stop that with their personnel. You have to have some concerns about the bench, but we've just not seen the bench really play that much. So,
we've seen Şengün get absolutely picked on in 1-5 pick and rolls, and that Brunson Cat pick and roll seems like tailor-made to pick on him. And before the episode, we were joking, Joe, because you were trying to find a 3 out there, and I was like, "Oh, I'll offer it to you." And then you like called my bluff, and I was like, "Actually, you know what? No, I don't want to do this." So I did not have the fortitude to actually go through with my Rockets love and Knicks fade, because I do agree with you that I think matchup wise it is really good. It leans Knicks for sure.
Yeah, it just screams like one of those spots where outside of the Dallas Mavericks, this might be like the toughest game the Rockets have had all year, and it's just like, whoa, like this is an offense with some firepower that they're going to have to deal with. And I don't think they've really had to deal with anything exactly like it either this season.
Jim, where are you at after hearing Joe's cap on this game?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to go fully to the Knicks. I actually was joking with Joe before the pod that I like leaned Rockets, but hearing him like start to break it down and even more in depth here on the pod, I think it's a stay away for me, only because I am high on the Rockets, low on the Knicks. But I really do think that the Brunson Cat pick and roll is going to be crazy. So I think maybe a way to do it would be like Brunson assists, Cat points, Knicks spread, and then I'd be like intrigued by the same game parlay. That like that game script to me, if that's going, I really, and then maybe Şengün unders because they have to adjust and take him off the court even a little bit. So I think there's a script out there if you want to get like, I really do think that that's a script that's like pretty viable and could be a fun little same game parlay. So
I don't want to get
crazy. I can build it right now.
I'm just going to do it. I don't want to get crazy. Don't want to get crazy.
Yeah, because you could grab
which side. I guess here's a question. Which side of the equation are you most confident in on the under, Jim? Like, is it like this team may score, or is it, but the other one won't, or is it really like no, like this is gonna be a rock fight?
I do think it's I think it's a combination because of the pace, and it's hard to like if pace is the biggest factor, it like slows down both teams.
Okay.
I think,
Okay.
but do you have, do you have like Knicks spread, the game under, and then those 2 player props?
I don't want to hit like.
I think throwing Şengün unders is intriguing. Like a Şengün
it's
rebound
31
under
and a half.
maybe.
He's at 31 and a half PRA.
Yeah, just PRA. That's like the biggest thing that would go down if his minutes went down.
Yeah, like if you
All right, let's do
do
that.
Cat 20 points, Brunson 8 assists, under 31 and a half PRA.
Do you want to do we think that Cat hits threes in this game or just scores on the interior?
I think he could do both.
I think it's both. Yeah, because I think I think it's up to Şengün which way he forces them, but like he can't stop both, and he could just do both. I think points is safer.
It's plus
points is safer.
I'm getting plus 550 on Knicks money line, Cat 20 plus, Brunson 8 plus, Şengün under 31 and a half.
Man, they like kind of sniffed out the correlation. That's a bummer.
If you smack the under, if you add the under, it jumps to 13 to 1.
Oh,
that's the move.
Yeah,
because of the counter correlation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think you could do Knicks spread because at that point, like,
yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't want the Brunson assist if we think it's a rock fight.
That's fair.
Yeah, then
what were you gonna say, Joe?
Yeah, you could take out the Brunson assist. Yeah, then it swings it a lot. Like if you take out Brunson assist, it drops to plus 650 with the money line. If you switch it to the spread, it's plus 750.
This is it. Under Şengün 31.5 PRA. Towns 20 plus points. Knicks money line in the under.
Yeah, that's plus.
What was that?
Plus 650.
Yeah, okay.
That's get
the
there.
one. That's our parlay for the night.
Nice.
Alperen Şengün under 31.5 PRA. Towns 20 plus points. Knicks money line and the under 218.5 plus 650.
Love it.
DraftKings.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun.
Nice cooking. Before we get out of here, Jim, you got Ayo Dosunmu over 11.5 points. Give me the cap real quick.
Yeah, I'll do it super quick. So Bulls have the fastest offensive possessions in the league right now. Jazz have the quickest defensive possessions in the league this season. So I think we're going to have some Bulls in general are going to be interesting. I picked Ayo because he seems to be really adjusting well to the Bulls' new style lately. He has 3 best games of the year lately. He also doesn't do much of his scoring by the rim. He does about less than 10% of his field goal attempts come attacking the rim. That's like the only good defender the Jazz have is Walker Kessler. So I like his points over 11.5. I like that getting that key number of 12 there. And then I think the Grizzlies are kind of in a similar spot. They play at a quick pace. And Jalen Wells has filled in pretty well as Desmond Bane, like very light. He's a rookie whose points prop hasn't quite adjusted enough. He's cleared it the last couple times out. So, and they're going to be playing a fast paced game as well. So Ayo Dosunmu and Jalen Wells points props. Ayo's the favorite one though. But these kind of two, like a fast paced offense, a defense that allows quick possessions. I'm going to be looking at players in those games to go over their points props.
All right, that'll do it for buckets for best bets for Monday. Joe's on Keegan Murray over 13.5 points. Knicks minus 3.5. Jim likes the Orlando team total under 102.5. Knicks Rockets under 218.5. Ayo Dosunmu over 11.5 points. I'm on Thunder minus 11.5 and Lakers minus 6.5 at my Pistons. That's gonna do it for buckets. We will actually not be back tomorrow because there are no games on Election Day. Go vote. Vote. Do that thing. On Wednesday. We'll be back Tuesday night for Wednesday. There we go. Tuesday night for Wednesday. Wednesday morning, you'll have a show for the Wednesday slate. And we're off and running throughout the rest of the week. Make sure to follow Joe and Jim in the Action Network app. Go check out Cash That Podcast. We'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.